Hi, it is your favorite internet nobody. Today's Sunday, 15th of December. The year is 2024, or what's left of it anyway. And I thought I'd make something slightly different. For those of you who don't know, I label my content with a little dot at every video title, and that dot, colored dot, could be red, green, yellow, or blue. And they indicate different things. And I have a video about that. You can search on the channel and find it about what I was thinking about that. But effectively, red is reactions, blue is informative, green is health and well-being updates, and yellow, which is the color of today's little recording, is philosophy, introspection, random unfettered yammering, maybe part madness, part loneliness, part trying to get all of whatever's happening in my head and just throw it out because I can't keep mulling over it. I can't keep thinking about it. I'm obsessive and I need to stop. And this is one way of doing it. This is one healthy way of doing it. People with friends and relationships, they usually have somebody to bounce these things off and talk. I don't. So I have to, I do, but I don't want to assail what few people have in my life with these things. Today, I wanted to talk about how I make sense of things. And another disclaimer, another preface. This will be from the point of view of my life, my experience. So, put that in a framework. That's the scope. My life, my experience of life so far as a Bulgarian national, as a economic migrant, as an IT specialist who didn't always work as IT specialist. It's a lot of things. A singleton, somebody who reads a lot, but is not necessarily the smartest or the brightest bulb around. White male, in some ways, started life privileged and then I lost everything, had to kind of build from there, and just all of that. And everything and anything else you can caveat and see this with. That's fine. Just keep that in mind. So I am not an authority. I'm not a medical expert or a psychologist, psychiatrist, you name it. If you need any of that, or if you're looking for something that's in the realm of help, this might not be it. But it's also in that general vicinity of philosophy / self-help, neither of which is very good for you. If you just do that, then you don't actually ask experts. But that's just me. So yeah, how I make sense of things. Well, there are three general concepts I can think of just for myself that have helped me in many ways wrap my head around what's happening to me, what's happening around me and within me. And the first one, and they're universal. I think they're very universal, regardless of where you come from and what's happening with you. Usually. The first one is the idea of fiction versus illusion. Fiction is transparent. Fiction is something that can be created, that somebody can immerse themselves in, and then get out on the other side of it fairly unscathed. For example, you can read a fiction book and you can really immerse yourself in that, but the book will end, or you'll have to put it down, or you have to breathe, for example. So although you're fully immersed in it, there's also life happening around you and within you. So fiction cannot quite take full control of you. Illusion, on the other hand, illusion and the nature of illusion is such that you cannot that easily unsee things. You cannot that easily work with it. Now, let me see if I can find a better word for it. It's harder to get rid of illusions. Because remember, the brain is interpreting reality. The brain does not see reality, does not hear or taste or feel or smell reality. The brain is interpreting biochemistry. It's interpreting signals that go to it, and it's trying to make sense of it, trying to figure out what's going on at all times. And there is already a filter to reality that's limited by our senses, by our brains, you know. But then imagine to that filter you add illusion without even realizing there are illusions, without even knowing that you are beholden, you're sort of a victim to illusions. That's horrible. That's very, very, very bad. And I think whereas fiction you can sort of put away and do away with, illusion requires events that create disillusionment. You want stuff that disillusion you from the illusion, something that we call a cold shower, something just something that will shake you and kind of toss you around and slap you a few times across the face just to try and wake you up from this. And they're not always nice. Disillusionment is a painful process. It is a very difficult, very painful process, depending on how deep these illusions, this dishonesty that's within all of us, depending on how deep that is, disillusionment can be a very painful process. But there's also catharsis on the other side. There is cynicism and irony. There is a lot going on the other side of disillusionment. But let me give you some examples. For example, I had the luck of disillusionment, of experiencing disillusionment so many times in my life. I've lost count. I was disillusioned that I was the smartest very early on. I was disillusioned about relationships. I was disillusioned about friendships. I was disillusioned about capabilities. I was disillusioned about religion. I was disillusioned about this idea that I can somehow survive anything or kind of put up with anything and everything and never break, never fall apart. There's been many times in my life when my resolve has been tested, my everything has been pushed to limits and beyond, without my liking or wanting it to be that way. And some might say, "Well, that's your fault. You should be ready for everything and anything." And I'm like, well, and on the other side is pain. On the other side is what now? On the other side is, oh, so this is how things go. And unfortunately, some people might spiral into a very negative a loop of kind of feeling bad all the time and feeling like life doesn't make any sense and it's pointless, or like get very, very cynical about everything. And that's a bad outcome. That's something you want to avoid at all costs. You cannot completely get rid of it, but you can work on these things. But there are also positives from disillusionment, because now that you know the errors of your ways, or now that you know that things are structured or working or problematic in a certain way, you can reverse engineer. You can find ways to work on them. You can find ways to work on them. There are also illusions that were always harmful, and then this illusionment shines light on them, brings clarity to them, and enhance your life, and just enhances your life. One disillusionment I had is that I would never feel love, and I was proven wrong on that 3 or 4 times at the very least. Believe it or not, I've had relationships. They're all done, but I've had relationships, and some I never felt love, and some I actually felt very strong feelings, and I felt good. So I know it's possible to feel love. Another illusion that I've had for a long time was that I'm not because I don't understand math very well, or I'm not a very good mathematician, or I'm not very good with math. I'll never work in IT, or never work with programming and such. And that was that was something that bothered me until almost my 30s. And then I went to college and I did some IT courses and I started working in IT and I worked my way up. And now I'm a DevOps automation infrastructure engineer at one of the largest insurers in the world. That caught me, again, not just my doing. A lot of smart people, a lot of good people pushed me up, but you also have to kind of stop lying to yourself, or stop hamstringing yourself, stop kind of stopping yourself from trying. So that was another illusion that I harbored for a long time. And as soon as I dispelled that, life just started kind of sorting itself out. So there are many things that in life that can either prevent us from getting places or from doing things, or sort of make us think we can do things, or we can get away with things. But disillusionment very much helps with this. And again, it's a painful process, but I think it's a necessary one. It's part of maturity, and I welcome it, and I think people should welcome it as well. The second big concept that I think, again, is very universal is knowing and knowledge versus learning. I think on this path of personal betterment for many of us, the first thing you need to be aware of, the first thing you need to accept is technical debt. Technical debt is effectively a concept in IT, and not just in IT, but in a concept where the time it takes you and the effort and resources it takes you to rework something again and again kind of is defined as technical debt. And human beings, we accumulate a lot of technical debt for many reasons. Maybe we didn't pay attention in class at school, or we didn't always do homework, or we didn't do out-of-class activity, or we didn't read the necessary literature, or we didn't care about working somewhere. Anyway, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that happen in your life, whether you like it or not, that add to this technical debt. And although it's not the end of the world, and you can certainly have a life with technical debt, and you can't get rid of all of it. It's not possible, I don't think. In many ways, you can get to a point where it's either too much and it hinders your existence. It makes life very, very, very difficult to live. And every day is a slog, and every day is reacting to things and fighting fires and trying to make sense and trying to piece things together, and you're just sinking deeper and deeper. Or you can be on the other side of it, where it's less reactive, more exploratory, more proactive work is happening, and things. You almost get the sense that some of the things in your life start to help, work themselves out. They just work themselves out. So I think in that case, knowledge is fantastic, but I think learning is more important. Appreciating the fact that, yes, lived experience and knowing things it gives you advantages, huge advantages in life. Having the ability to look at information, or look for information, understand the information, process the information, see, try and figure out if the information you're reading and watching is something you can make sense of, or you can understand, or maybe you need additional input, and then you talk to people. This entire process of working with a lot of different data inputs and getting some useful information on the other side is cognitively taxing. It is something that you have to learn how to do. You have to learn how to learn, if you will, and I'm not very good at it myself. And I think that's better than knowing, especially nowadays. Because if you think about it, take 100 years back. It didn't take a lot to be very smart. There weren't nearly as many books, nearly as many newspapers, nearly as many sources of stuff bombarding people day in, day out. So 100 years ago, having access to a personal library or having access to books, maybe a book a month or something, made you fairly highly intelligent, traveling, journaling, spending a lot more time in quietude, in silence. All of that contributed to some very smart individuals. But if they were to try to live nowadays with the pace that we're trying to keep up, or we think we can keep up, which I don't think we can, they'd burn out. They would burn out. Or if they try to bank on their existing experience and knowledge, they would fall behind. They wouldn't just seem conservative, they would seem, in many ways, regressive. In the way you see a lot of politics nowadays is kind of trying to turn back the hands of time, by any means necessary, which will cause a lot of pain, a lot of suffering. It will delay a lot of things unnecessarily. But that's what it is. People who think they're knowledgeable, resting on those laurels and not pushing beyond that. I think, yeah, that's the second thing. That's the second thing about life. So regardless of where you are right now, regardless of how much you know, remember that you also need to live, you need to experience stuffs, and knowing is just part of it. Knowing, learning and knowing how to learn is I think is bigger. I think it has more merit, has more value to it. And ultimately is the cutting edge. But it comes with a cost. It's cognitively taxing. The third very major theme, I think something that is sort of valid for all of us, is life. Life is a wild card. How you start your life and where your life is right now dictates a lot of how your life will then proceed to be for the foreseeable future. There is a lot in life that we have no control over. There's an awful lot in life where, regardless of how smart we are, regardless of what positions we are in, stuff is unpredictable. Stuff is not always predictable. Certain things you can forecast, and many things you just cannot. And I think that's what we need to be mindful of. That's just something we have to be mindful of. Not in well, I have more benefit than somebody else for being born to in the situation I was born in, but also what happened in life. What relationships I've had, what schools I went to, what books I've read, what YouTube videos I listened to, what music again I listened to, what games I played, everything that's happening to me or that's happened to me over the last 37 years is shaping me. Not just into this ball of dough, but it is shaping my mentality. It's shaping how I think and how I perceive things. And I think even if we were to address the first two major things about disillusionment and then about learning, you will still have people in this life who would feel life differently from us, who would just have a different experience of life altogether. And as long as we're mindful of this, as long as we keep our eyes and ears peeled and our minds open to, and our hearts, that should be okay. That should be okay. It just means we have to work with more things. We have to work with more variables. We have to work with more N's and X's, and just be a bit more abstract about certain things. That's an inevitability. We're not machines, after all. In my mind, I had so many other things to say around these things. I feel like I'm not fully expressing all of this, but it's also a very massive subject. And again, although this stuff sort of applies to me, but I also feel it's universal. By by hearing all of this, if you have still have a life to live, whatever's allotted to you, whatever's your health allows and your age. And to the rest of that, I have no answers. I have no idea. I have no inkling. I can guess, but that's as good as it's gonna get. It's guessing. It's a lot of guesswork. So yeah, don't worry about setbacks. And if you feel disillusioned, that's fine. See if you can spot these moments when something that you thought is the way it is suddenly falls apart and reveals its true self. There is pain, but there is also catharsis afterwards. Don't forget, you can be very smart, you can be very well read, but you also have to keep being well read and smart, I think. So don't just rest on the laurels, don't just rest on the experience ever. Maybe slow down, but don't completely abandon this, because life will change around you, and then you will be caught unawares, and then you will try and set things right and try and make them great again. And we know where that goes. And the third thing is, just keep reminding yourself that life is diverse. Life is absolutely crazily complex. Life is different through the eyes and ears and minds and hearts of people around us. And the only way to figure out what everybody else is feeling and thinking is to talk. And again, the rest of the day, the remainder of your day, I have no idea. So good luck. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time. Take care.